morning, everyone. I want to start off by asking a question. How many of you have recognized the song that has been played? That's awesome. Can anyone tell? Rocky, right? And what comes into your mind when you think about this song? What? Climbing stairs, right? That's awesome. So it's so fascinating how the 5 senses that we have, right? Like vision, smelling things, and then hearing things, hearing music and touching things, makes you remember things that you've first encountered when you've actually experienced that. So I was a huge fan of Rocky throughout my childhood, and it was a very good privilege that I was able to go to Philadelphia a couple of months back and then climb on the stairs. And to my surprise, people still, every day, climb on the stairs with that music. So what does it tell us? It tells us that audio is a very important factor and a very important tool that people can use for marketing and for connecting with consumers and engaging and entertaining them. So we are in the voice era. And when I say that we are in the voice era, I mean purely from a technical perspective, because voice has been used by humans from the earliest of the civilizations. But this is the time when technology has caught up to it. The advancements in ASR and NLU have made it so easy for developers and marketers to create chatbots which can actually talk to the consumers. And they can also talk in custom voices. So voice is disrupting the fundamentals of marketing communication and consumer engagement. And throughout this course of my presentation, I'll be showing how it's done. So we at VoiceQube, we are building the future, which is powered by voice. So what does that mean? So we firmly believe that voice applications are the gateway for human-computer interaction. And what is HCI? Where are all of us headed? So we've seen such a huge transition in user interfaces, and we are seeing so many innovations happening in the voice space. But on the other hand, there are a lot of innovation happening on the VR and AR space. Do you guys see that there's a clear path ahead of us where AR and VR is going to meet voice technology in the future, where everything, every part of your daily task that you use a computer for, it can be used in the most intuitive fashion, which is natural language and conversation. So that is where we are headed. And voice is already there, where you can actually develop applications and deploy them. So we help organizations build such voice applications. So I just want to go through the evolution of communication, right? And how businesses have communicated with their consumers throughout time. So it started off with barter system, where you had certain goods and you had to search for the takers of those goods, and coincidentally, they should also have some goods which you are interested in. And then it changed to a traditional marketplace, where it has become a little more organized. Then it is a seller's marketplace, and then conventional mass media marketing has come into place, where you have a product, and then for all of you, I'm going to display the same ad, right? But the beauty of it is I can display the ad in one shot very easily. So the efficiency has increased. So I'm able to reach a lot of people now. And then after that, so what next, right? And then you saw the new age marketing, digital marketing, which is more personalized, right? Which is more quicker, and which is more analytical. Because right now, you're not only displaying a digital ad, but you're also collecting analytics out of it. Like number of people who have clicked the ad, number of people who have commented on the Facebook ad, or hit a like, or dropped a tag of one of their friends. So in the recent years, we can see that this process is not ending at all. You can see that marketers are trying to become more efficient. You can see that marketers are trying to become more personalized, and they want to make sure that their consumers get answers very quick. And I'm going to show you some examples. The best example of personalization and a huge hit is definitely the Coca-Cola, right? So they've put names on the bottles, and I think that has made a great impact in the consumers who have been buying Coke for all these years. How many of you agree? Not many. Okay. So one of the clear trends that I see is when you're trying to move from one era of marketing communication to the other, you can clearly see that it is becoming more personalized. Do you agree? Yes. What else is happening? What other aspect is improving a lot? It's becoming very quick, right? Now you have a query, you post it on Twitter, and within the next 4 hours, if you don't get a resolution, it becomes very nasty, right? So brands are taking extra care in making sure that the consumer is happy, and the consumer's answer are being answered as quickly as possible. No matter if it is going to cost them a lot more money than if they take their own time, they are investing that money to make sure that their marketing communication has no lag or no delay. And the third part is, it's very analytical right now. The data that has been collected over the last 10 years is enormous, and it's just going to increase as we see in the next 10 years. So these are the clear trends when you look at marketing communication, right? So every new era of marketing communication, it is more personalized, it's more quick, and it's more analytical. So this is from the brand's perspective. Now let's see another field, which is technology. The evolution of interfaces. Initial computers, right? They were in the character mode. And not many people cared about it because only the geeks were able to use it. And later, the graphical user interface has come into place where it has started to become a personal computer. That's when more people were introduced to computers, and they started to do wonders. After that, with the internet boom, the entire world connected with each other, and the user interface has become more addictive. And people were hooked on to computers more than ever before. And they were able to do tasks far superior than before. And when it went into the mobile era, I think all of you know how big an impact the time period between 2007 and 2011 was. It created a massive industry, which is the mobile app development industry, and a lot more opportunities for marketers and for digital marketers and brands to reach out to exactly that particular consumer and display one particular ad at a particular time. So it's become very, very contextual based, right? What next? So if you see, the user interface has become more and more intuitive and more convenient for the user and for the consumer. And the consumer has become closer and closer to the brand. And the next is voice user interfaces. So when it comes to voice, now even those who are not tech savvy, even those who do not speak English as their primary language, are able to communicate with brands, and they're able to take leverage of the new offers or any kind of information, right? Information has become more accessible with voice, because voice is the most intuitive way of communication, and it has been there since millennia. So when we talk about a voice user interface, and then when we try to apply this voice user interface in a business perspective, what are we actually trying to achieve? So what is VUI all about? So VUI stands for voice user interface, right? And what's it all about? So I'll tell you a few examples, right? Now, I'll tell you an example which is very closely related to this event and why I'm over here. So I got introduced to one of the persons from Tutor Doctor, which is partner company to WSI. And my colleague has taken the first call when Tutor Doctor wanted to create an Alexa skill. And I know a lot of my competitors as well in India who we communicate. We are a very small industry, right? Voice industry. So we communicate with each other and we share leads. So the scope document that was given to us was a little bit more complex. And there is no way that somebody could actually look at the scope and give a quotation in the next 30 minutes, right? It's impossible. And I've learned it over time through a lot of sales meetings that it is not always that you have to be in a hurry and give out a quotation in the fear of losing the lead, right? You have to be very honest with your prospective customer, and you have to tell them what is actually happening and why do you need time in order to get back to them. So that is a conversation which I know and which I can make, and I am the best salesman of my company, right? So the person who got in touch with us has talked to a lot of my competitors, and then they immediately send them some quotation, right, and some timeline. But when he came to me and when he talked to me, I told him that, this is going to take time, and these are the exact reasons why it's going to take time. And we had a very normal, honest conversation as if we were on the same team, right? And that's where I converted the lead, and that's how the rest of the things happen. So you always have to put your best man forward, and I was lucky that I was there in the office at that particular point of time, and I could take the call. But if it were my colleague or my junior, the probability of the lead converting may be less. But then my physical time is very limited, right? And it's something that I can't do anything about, right, in a normal use case. But with voice, that can be changed. I can create an audio profile of myself where I answer all the generic questions, and I answer a certain layer of contextual questions, so that any of your questions which come under the purview of the questions that I answered, you will get an answer in my voice. So just to make it a little bit more light, I just wanted to include, you guys recognize him, right? So I think for all of us to be here, he's one of the primary reasons, right? It was his brainchild, and then his partners, and all of them have come together and created this wonderful ecosystem. And when I was looking at the T-shirt yesterday and saw that every year from 2000 that there's been a great event that is organized, that's amazing. It's a great legacy. Now, if you ask any question about this entire ecosystem, he would be able to answer easily, right? Now, what voice user interface does is it creates a particular persona of this person, and then it multiplies. So that even when he is not physically available, the quality of him conversing with you still remains. And just imagine the kind of power a brand would get if something like this is implemented for them. So that is why I always say that every brand from now onwards will not just have a logo and a tagline, but will also have its own personality. And with that personality, you can add wit, you can add sarcasm, and a whole lot of other characteristics. So what can it achieve? I mean, when I'm there and I'm the best salesman of my company, and I get a lead, I can talk to him in a very contextual manner. Like, I can understand his problems right at that point of time. I can, in an ad hoc format, I can understand what's he trying to solve. And I can provide him exactly the answers to that question. So I can be more personalized to him, right? It's personalization of conversations. And when he's giving me a certain task or he's challenging me with the question, because I'm the best guy, I can come up with very quick responses. Also, if I'm finding some difficulty with the prospective lead, and if I'm trying to, and I'm talking to that person, I'm also constantly collecting feedback of his body language, feedback of his, of the way he's talking to me, and the time he's taking to respond back via email and things like that. And these kind of things are inbuilt in me, and then I subconsciously use them when I'm conversing with him again later. So it's kind of making my job more efficient, and I'm being analytical about it. But what are these three things, right? These three things are the exact same things which the marketing era needs in the future, right? Personalization of conversation, being quick to respond, efficient and analytical. And you can achieve that using a voice bot or a voice personality. And the timing is always very, very important, right? So right now, there are 150 million devices of Alexa, Google Home, Samsung Bixby, Apple HomePod, right, sitting in American homes. There are 150 million, that's half the population. There are 150 million devices in American homes in 2019. And it is going to increase to 2 billion devices by 2022. And this is not what I'm predicting, right? This is said by Google. And so if these many devices are already there, obviously the developer community wants to jump on it and try to create engaging applications and make money and communicate with the consumer as quickly as possible. And they did. There are 100,000 applications that are already there on Alexa itself. But out of this 100,000, how many of them are active? Very few. The reason is there's a huge learning curve. The way to develop a voice application is completely different than how you develop a mobile application. Because mobile app, you give them a certain screen, and you know that each button has a specific functionality. But when it's voice, it's very open-ended. The consumer can say anything. And that is the reason why the future needs more creativity in technology. So until now, the creative guys needed the technology teams in order to create something meaningful for the brands. But now I can see that there is more of a creative work that would be there for agencies in the future than the amount of technology that needs to be done. Because technology is being, it's plateauing, right? I mean, all these big companies are making it easier and easier for developers to develop applications. But only those applications which are creative enough, which have the foresight, are able to make it big. But yeah, this is the perfect timing, right? The devices are increasing, the technology is there, and the brands are competing with each other to connect with consumers in a more entertaining and an engaging fashion. And there's a fun, so how many of you can guess accurately which demographic do you guys think is using these voice devices the most? Okay, close, no, yeah? No. I'm talking about age groups. No? Yeah? Kids. Exactly. 35% of usage is by kids. And the second comes seniors. 20% usage is seniors. Isn't this interesting? So the youth and the millennials are not using it. Why? Because the inertia is too much. We are so used to graphical user interfaces, we are so used to the screens that it'll take some time for us to interact with the computer using voice. But when you put it in front of a kid, his natural way of communication is talking. And when you put it in front of a senior, their natural way of communication is also talking. And that's the reason why these statistics show up. Also, data points towards intuition, right? I mean, these are the top technologies that have been there in the last century. And you can see that, so the x-axis over here is how many years it took for a particular technology to catch up with the percentage of population on the y-axis. And you can see that the computer took the longest time. It took 20 years to reach to around 30% of the population. But when you look at the smart speaker, it reached 50% in 5 years. So that shows something. That shows that humans are receptive to new technologies far more than how they used to be in the past. So, and it also shows that it's very intuitive, right? I mean, if you make something convenient for the users, they are bound to adapt it. So the data points towards intuition, and that's the reason why this is also happening. So when these many trends are pointed towards this direction, which is voice, what are actual brands up to? What are they doing? They must be looking at this, right? And they have done some stuff. So I'm going to share a few case studies with you. It's called Hippo Insurance, and they did a very interesting application, an Alexa skill, where what they did was they created a fake conversation between two people, so that when the house is left empty, you just ask Alexa to play the conversation, and it's as if someone is talking to each other. And their use case is that it prevents burglary. Now, whether or not it literally solves the problem, that's secondary. But it's just very creative, and it created a lot of PR buzz. And you guys know how important that is, right? No publicity is bad publicity. So that created a lot of buzz, and Amazon has put that as one of their very interesting case studies, and they got a lot of awareness out of it. But coming to more serious case studies, so this is called TuneIn, and they created an Alexa skill for monetizing podcasts. So they are using native advertising in Alexa skills. So they are creating a platform where if you are a podcast publisher, or if you are an audio content publisher, you can subscribe to their platform, and then they are going to play ads in between content. And that's a huge monetization model for all these content creators. Kayak. Kayak is using Alexa skills for selling their products, and also giving information in a very, very quick fashion. So you have an Alexa device at home, and you're talking to your friend, and you want to go to Cancun, let's say. And then you just want to check how much are the flights, right? So you need not pull up the phone from your pocket, and you need not go to the web browser. You need not do all that. You can just say, Alexa, ask Kayak, what's the cost? Or for booking hotels, what is the cost? And then it doesn't end there. What it does is, when you ask the skill a question, it just doesn't give you an answer like a Google result. It also prompts you. Hey, do you want to book, may I know when do you want to, what are the dates you want to book it for? And then you give them the dates, right? And when you give them the dates, now they are collecting all these data points. So whenever there is a sales, whenever there's a lead, right? When you see Google Analytics, you can only see that this particular lead has come to this page and then traveled to another page, and this is where he dropped off. But you exactly don't know what he's doing on that page. But when it's through a conversation, you're actually pre-qualifying the lead. You are doing a certain amount of homework. You understand that this particular person wants to travel with 3 people and in between these dates, which gives them a much more personalized way and much more data for them to target the user again with a very specific ad. Starbucks. So Starbucks had an app where you can order the coffee without standing in the line. So they just added voice to it, and they saw that the usage has increased 20%. So there are existing use cases as well where it just takes probably 6 or 7 clicks to create an order. And now with Starbucks voice application, it just takes 1 voice command. We all know in 2011 how all ride-sharing companies had this agenda of booking a ride in 3 clicks, right? Now it's all about booking something with 1 voice command. And my most favorite of all, and I'm sure you guys would be interested in this as well, Johnny Walker. What they did is very interesting because it's going to engage users, and it's also going to be very entertaining, and it sells a product. It pushes a product. What they're doing is you open Johnny Walker skill, and then it asks you certain questions. Questions on what do you like, what do you don't like, right? And your preferences. And based on all these preferences that they collect, they say that, hey, you know what? This is the drink that best suits you at this point of time. You are in the mood to have this drink. So people want to use this skill again and again because they're curious, and it's just fun, right? So you can see the various forms of communication that brands are trying to do through this newfound channel. And when you see what is the one thing that is common among all of them is creative capital, right? So these brands need creativity more than ever. Now the technology is flat. Technology is easy. The creative part, that is difficult. That is where I think digital marketing agencies would play a major role in designing these conversations. And I'll tell you why in a little bit time that digital marketing agencies are the most qualified people in order to design these conversations. And what are we up to? Like, what is VoiceQube up to in all of this, right? So we are creating something very interesting. So imagine your kid playing a game on an Alexa device where he has to save the planet from an alien invasion, and in the process, he learns how to code. Yes, this is possible. For kids between 8 to 12 years, we have done this game. So it's imagine your kid saving the planet and learning how to code through interactive games. So interactive games are on the rise, and it's phenomenal because when you're talking about a kid, right now all the digital media channels that are targeting kids and the kids' content are very one-dimensional. You have a YouTube video, they watch it, and they go to another video and they watch it again. But when it comes to interactive content, you are talking to the kid. You're talking to the kid and you're engaging him in a very interesting story. And when you're talking to a kid for such a long time, there are so many places that you can collect data and you can give it back to the parent. If the kid is using any abusive language, you alert the parent. If the kid is talking anything depressing, you can alert the parent. If the kid is good at pronouns, he's not able to identify adjectives, you can alert the parent. You can give parent very interesting analytics. And you can also teach kid, because how did I learn that spinach is good for my health? Through Popeye, right? So stories are a very good form of educating children. But we are also into enterprise applications, and we've developed a hotel ordering system, which is very similar to the Starbucks example that I've told you. We've done something for Live 365, where we've created a platform for them so that their individual radio channels can actually come and subscribe onto their platform and then get Alexa as a distribution channel. And healthcare, senior care, right? So when you have a senior admitted in a senior care, you have so many questions. What is my grandmother doing? What's my grandfather doing? Has my father eaten his dinner? Has my father taken this medicine, right? All these questions are answered by a set of people in a call center right now, and that can be automated. And Tutor Doctor is one of the partner companies over here, and we've done something for them, and we are still doing something interesting for them. And one of the secret things that we are doing is we are working with several governments. So this is very interesting, right? So inside an organization, there are so many data points that you need access to. There's so much information that is there lying, and then there's a lot of effort that's needed in order to bring out that information. So in such environments, voice applications are very easy because the major use case of any voice application is to fetch important information in an ad hoc format very quickly. So information vending is one of the places where voice applications make a lot of sense. So any place where there is a lot of information and a lot of consumers who are confused with the information, like insurance policies, banking, there's a large volume of customers who are calling these companies on a daily basis. All of these places, voice makes a lot of sense. Of course, upselling and cross-selling, like how it happens in any hotel, right? Okay, I want to order a pizza. Sir, do you want to have our draught beer along with it? It's very good. So you said, yeah, cool. So it's cross-selling, right? So upselling and cross-selling is also possible with voice. But let us say you're going on a GUI interface and you click on add to cart, and then there's a pop-up suddenly asking you to add a Coke. It's very disturbing, and the conversion rates are low. But whereas voice, it's very intuitive and very much, the users are used to it, right? So it's very conversational. Where else does it make sense? Subject matter experts. I'm a big fan of Gary Vee, and I'm sure there must be a lot of fans over here, right? No? Yeah, cool. So yeah, and then subject matter experts, right? So the cost of reaching out to a subject matter expert right now is huge, and his availability is very narrow. But remember the audio profiles that I've talked about? Just imagine if we have audio profiles of everyone from Mark Twain till Gary Vee. So I can actually have a conversation with Mark Twain right now. I can talk to Ayn Rand, right? So all these great people who have left so much content out there in the world, it's just lying out there, and you have to do a lot of effort in order to pick their minds by reading their books. But subject matter experts and their lessons and their philosophies can be easily accessed through a conversation. So it reduces the barrier to reach out to these people, and it also reduces their time in creating repetitive content. Also, interactive content consumption that I've also mentioned in the form of our game for kids. You must have recently watched, like a year back, Bandersnatch by Black Mirror on Netflix. How many of you have watched it? Yeah. It was fun. It was something new. It was fun. You choose certain decisions, and the story moves in that direction. So I think this is one completely different genre, which is evolving. So what is the standard approach? And why do I keep saying that digital marketing agencies are more and more qualified in order to do and in order to be in this voice space? So after developing 300 plus applications, we have come to one standard approach, which is perfect. Persona identification. The first step of creating a voice application is you need to understand your target consumers, and you need to understand what kind of people they are. So you do the persona mapping as the first step. The second step is you design conversation. You put yourself in the shoes of your target consumer, and you talk as a brand. What are the questions that your target consumer might have, and how do you want to reply to them, right? That's the second step. Third step is create opportunities. So when a particular conversation is happening, how do you create opportunities to sell? And how do you create a feedback funnel from these conversations? That is the third step. And the last step is just development and support. Now, isn't this very similar? It's very similar to creating a marketing campaign, right? It's exactly almost the same steps. So you identify the personas, you design a conversation, you try to create opportunities, and then you execute. So this is the reason why I stress that digital marketing agencies stand to be one of the most qualified people in order to design voice applications. And there's a lot of revenue over there to be made because they're already engaged with all these brands on all the other digital fronts. So I wanted to do a small exercise. We've got 13 minutes, so probably we can do this. So I wanted to see if there is any volunteer two volunteers. One would be a brand, and one would be a target consumer, and try to see if they can create a conversation between themselves, and if we can go through the process of designing a voice application, like live right now, because it's that easy. And I wanted to see if my thesis of saying that digital marketers are perfect to do this is right. So is there anyone who wants to do this? Okay, awesome. I need one more. Okay, cool. Awesome. So, nice to meet you.
How are you?
Good. Hi. So I think she's going. So I'll just ask you a few questions to lead you into the conversation, and then probably you can take over the role play, right? So is any of you managing any client right now on the digital marketing front?
Yes.
Yeah. What industry is it?
Real estate.
Real estate. Very good. So did you buy a home, or did you rent a home anytime?
I bought a house once.
Cool. So you were a customer once. So I think this is perfect. So you can play the role of a real estate agency.
The client?
Yeah.
Of the agency or the client?
Yeah, the agency.
Oh my
and then
God. Okay.
and then yeah, because you are advising
Oh,
the
yeah,
agency,
yeah,
right?
yeah. Yeah, I know how.
And then he has bought a house before, so he might be having a lot of questions.
Okay.
Right? So let's see how the conversation plays out. So I want you to start asking him questions based on what kind of give him a certain set of preferences that you have, or you can just say I want to buy a house, and then let's see how it plays out.
Okay, let's start with that.
Do you want a mic?
Okay, here, I'll talk like this.
Yeah.
Hello.
Okay, cool.
I want to buy a house.
Maybe we can.
Yeah,
Do you have another microphone? It's okay? Okay. Okay, so. Hey, hello, how are you?
Good, how are you?
What's your name?
Dominic.
Oh, thank you. Where are you from?
Toronto.
Okay. And you're interested in buying a house?
Yes.
Okay, how much are you married?
I'm married, I have 2 kids.
You have 2 kids, and do you have pets?
I have no pets.
You don't have a dog? Oh, that's bad. Would you like a house in the beach in Cancun?
I would like waterfront, yes.
Oh, in waterfront?
Dominic, can I go Dominic?
You want to go to Dominican
I want to
Republic?
retire.
You want to retire? Oh,
I work for
okay.
WSI, so I can retire.
You work for WSI. WSI is a company for, what is it for?
We do digital marketing.
Digital marketing. How many clients do you have?
I have lots of clients. That's
You
why I
have
wanna
lots of
retire.
clients. Oh, you want to retire, of course. Oh my God.
I want waterfront and I want to work from home.
You want to work from home. So you need a big studio or you need a part.
I just want a place to kind of work from home in my
Work
like
from
an
home,
office.
okay, perfect.
Yeah.
You have an office. And do you want a boat also? Do you want to buy a boat?
Yeah.
Oh my God, okay, I'm selling a boat too. Okay, so when are you coming to Dominican?
When can you find me a place?
Okay, let's ask Alexa. Okay, more or less? You need more conversation?
Where is the sale happening? So I just want to see if it converts.
Okay, propose the
Yeah.
selling part.
Like,
Okay, so
He's
right
ready.
now,
You have a buyer in front of you.
okay, yeah. Right now, we have an amazing opportunity that you can buy a house with a boat for you to work home, and it's around $200,000, more or less, in the beachfront. Is that okay for you?
That sounds good.
It sounds good. Okay.
You guys have
so
a deal?
you have a credit card, so we can check it out.
Awesome. So yeah, thanks a lot for participating.
Okay, more or
right?
less.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks
Well,
for participating. Thanks for volunteering. Now, creating this kind of a conversation on a mobile app is impossible. Do you guys agree? It's impossible, right? So he did a lot of things. First, he made small talk. And he asked, do you have kids? Do you have pets? And he wanted to understand what the person does for work so that he can filter in his mind what is the budget range that he can send a proposal for, right? And then afterwards, he also did upselling. Like, not just a boat, but not just a house, but he also sold a boat. So that is exactly what is possible with voice applications and with an Alexa skill or with brands coming and conversing with customers. So now this exercise has been done by so many Alexa evangelists, I would say, Amazon guys, in huge hackathons. And I always observe the same thing, that when developers come onto the stage, they don't think from a sales perspective. They just think from a functional perspective. Okay, first I need to understand what is his budget range. So the first question is, okay, what's your budget? That doesn't work, right? So this is exactly what I wanted to highlight, that when you bring certain people who have worked in the industry, who understand the client, who understand the brand, and who also understand the customer very well, which is usually the agency which tries to connect these both, they are well poised to create a very good conversation which has higher probability of converting a sale, right? Converting a lead. So, of course, there is a little bit of development work that happens after the conversation is designed, and that's exactly where companies like VoiceQube can come and help, and that's the reason why I'm here. So we can help you in taking your creative ideas for your brands and bringing them to reality through our technology, right? So we are a company based out of US and India. We have 1 year of experience in enterprise projects. We've done 35 of them. We've done 300 plus voice applications among all of our developers. We won 5 awards. We've given 4 keynote presentations, including one in Davos during the time of World Economic Forum as a part of an Indian delegate. We are a team of 8 people working full time, and we've got a resource pool of 25 right now. And we are over here trying to show you a very good way for your agencies to start making revenue on this new front. And we are seeking partnerships so that we can add voice to several of these businesses going forward. So yeah, that's my time, and I have 5 minutes for questions, so if anybody has any questions.
Do you have a demo?
Yeah, sure. I can show you a demo offline. Very good question. So Google supports the highest languages, highest number of languages. It has like 20 to 25, which are very good with ASR, but Alexa supports 7 to 8. So you can actually create a language model from scratch, but then that takes a lot of technology innovation, a lot of investment. So that is something that we wouldn't advise. But there are banks in Belgium who are creating it from scratch. But I'm not sure how it's going to pan out. But right now, it's like, I think English is definitely there. English is 97% accurate in most of the ASR models. Then closely second comes Spanish. And then there are certain set of other languages like there's Japanese also, and Chinese, Mandarin. So, but there are languages coming as we go by, right? I mean, there are so many voice companies right now who are doing these transcribing of language and creating a model out of it. So yeah, I think almost every major language in the world will have its own ASR model pretty soon.
What do you see as the implications of voice on search? So it's great if you've got it, but if nobody can find you, then how do you see us adapting our clients to be found via voice search?
Via voices, that's an amazing question. So 25% of searches on Google right now are happening through voice. And there are so many search results that are being given out by Alexa, right? And Alexa, the brands who have adopted Alexa in the very beginning, like Tide and all, now any question that you ask about how do I remove the stain, you get an answer from Alexa that is created by Tide. So now voice goes one step ahead of the general search, because people who are trying to search on a voice assistant, they don't want to see search results and select an option, right? They want the answer. They want the answer very fast, because even on Google right now, like let's say you make a search, you have 3 options right now. You pretty much see that most of them are the same, like in terms of content. But this is where brands have to get more and more creative and try to see, again, it's like designing your Google AdWords campaign, right? What are the exact phrases that the user might ask? And one more key thing is that now when you're typing, you type less words. But when you're saying, you tend to say a lot more words. So more long-tail keywords would come into play. Yeah.
So if you're looking for partnerships and such, what are we looking for in our clients that are ideal candidates for right? So what's the cost that, for example, if I'm applying with $1,000 a month budget, that seems to make sense. I'm not sure how many what you're looking for.
Yeah, so it is very contextual when you're talking about budgets, but I would say that let's target use cases, right? So when use cases are there, if the client has something that he has a variable, a varied number of products, which can be upselled and cross-sell with each other. That is a very good use case for a voice application, because you can create a conversation that designs it in such a fashion that if a user is asking about a product A, you can try to see how you can add product B to the bundle. That is one use case. Second use case is if the client has a huge pool of information and he's getting constant requests from consumers, a large volume of consumers, like banking, insurance companies, right? They're asking a lot of questions. Information vending. So this becomes a very good use case as well. And then you go to a premium segment where in luxury hotels, right? You have the iPad, but hardly anyone uses it. But when you you put a voice assistant over there, there's no need for you to wait for the operator to take the call. There's no wait time. So in luxury segments, also voice makes a lot of sense. But most importantly, consumption. So voice, and it's a very good media channel, right? So for content creators, for news outlets, it becomes a very, very good platform where users can easily access news and consume content on these devices. So these are the segments that can come. Last question, yeah.
Only, well, do you have this connection with automation part, for example, a trigger, when you are talking to the device or the app? For example, do you want me to send you an email and you connect it
Email.
to the platform?
Integrations.
Yeah, indications. For example, I'm talking to the bot or
Okay.
the app, And the app says, hey, do you want me to send you the quotation by email?
Absolutely.
And it's connected with that?
Very, very good question, because that's a very good question, because that brings in the concept of ecosystem, right? So there is no device which is alone, right? Mobile is connected to your watch and your mobile is connected to the laptop, and they are connected to your pods right now. And voice assistants are just going to be one more device in the ecosystem, right? So all of these integrations, right? Like, let's say, sending a mobile notification, sending an email with a link, or sending a location on WhatsApp saying that, this is where you can find this is where your prospective home address is, right? All of these things are possible because the back end is just technology. And with technology, you can just do magic, right? And the technology is becoming easier and easier and easier for people to adopt. But it's the creative part that needs a lot of hours to put in. And I think the entire talk about AI taking over jobs also comes to this point, that AI is going to make all these technology jobs go away, but the creative part and the abstract part, the demand for it is increasing day by day because consumers want better service.
Can we use it for cold calls?
Absolutely, yeah. So
Okay. That would be awesome.
But I mean, the conversion would be very small because whenever there's an unknown number, people are just hanging up these days. But it can be used in the reverse use case, whereas there's a call center, 25 people sitting and answering questions, can be removed, only one bot can scale to 25,000 people. Oh, okay, guys. So it's been my pleasure to come here, and I hope it was worth your time. These are some of the observations that I've done in the last 2 years, and I just wanted to share it with you. And if you guys find this interesting, please catch hold of me offline. Thanks.